Well, hello everyone. This is my teaser video for April 25th. Um, as we think of, Sue and I are back from vacation, and this is the message for that Sunday. And I have just a question. I want everyone to do a little self examination. And as you do the self examination, I just want you to think, do you find it easier to just do things yourself, or taking the time to explain or teach or train someone else so they can do it? It's interesting because I think in churches, a lot of people find it's just easier to do things themselves, and they just, take the load upon themselves. They do the work. And then eventually what that does is they either leads to burnout because they're trying to do too much and they get frustrated and they quit, or it leads to being a bottleneck. If everything comes to one person and that person is the only one who can do it, then nothing else can happen till that person is done. So then that is a bottleneck. Or again, it just comes down to ministries eventually end or fall apart because nobody knows how to do it but the one person or so that was doing it. It's interesting because that seems to really be only a problem in the church world or in the volunteer world. In the business world, and again, most of you know I was a vice president in charge of operations at a computer company before I went into the ministry. And in the business world, we would never assume we were just going to do it ourselves. Anytime we hired new employees, we taught them their job so they could do it well. We trained them so they could be more efficient at what they did, because when they were more efficient, the company was more productive. Why can't we put that same concept into church ministry? With the more people who know how to do certain things, the more people who can share the load, the more work that can get done, the more that can be accomplished, and the more that's not reliable, that's just relying on one or two people to get the job done. If it relies on one or two people, there's also a bottleneck. Again, people getting worn out, people getting frustrated and tired, and people quitting. So that's interesting because it's biblical. If we're going to look at Exodus chapter 18, verses 17 to 23. Exodus chapter 18, verses 17 to 23. And as you read that passage, you'll see this is a passage about Moses and his father-in-law, Jethro, where Jethro decides to follow Moses around for a day. And he realizes that when Moses is trying to make all the decisions for the people, he told him, this is not good. This is not the way you should do this. You become the bottleneck for the whole nation of Israel because they're all waiting for you. So as we think about this as church, as our ministries, as our commissions, as our leadership, as members of the congregation, how can we better share the load? How can more people get involved, get trained in how to do anything? I tell all of our committee chairs to train up an assistant chair. All our secretaries should have an assistant secretary to learn, and the council president, the vice president should lead a couple of the council meetings a year. It's the only way to do that is give training. We just had 3 months where Wayne did the pastoral part of the council and elders meetings for that quarter. It's part of training and teaching so more people can carry the load. So if something happened to me and I was out for a month or two, Wayne could do that because he's had some experience. He's been taught, he's been trained how to do it. We do that with our praise teams. We have many of the different musicians play, but if some people can't show up that day, they're still able to perform because enough of them know enough of what's going on that they can keep it going. It's not just one person. It's something that if we want to be more efficient, if we want to not burn out volunteers, if we want to be able to accomplish more things, it takes more people getting involved, more people being trained on how to do certain things. This kind of follows the sermon 2 weeks ago when I talked about mine, where some people feel that the ministry is theirs and they want to keep a clutch on it so others don't know what's going on, and then eventually when they're not there, the ministry dies. And we really, if it's a ministry, we want to keep going on. If Pembroke's a church, we want to keep going on and we want to keep accomplishing things. then we need to train as many people as possible so they can learn and grow and know if someone is out a week or two, someone else can pick up the slack and do what they did. We can't do that if we don't share information, if we don't train, we don't teach up. Biblical terms, this could be discipling or mentoring. Both those terms are used for training up your replacement or the person who can do it if you're not there. In the business world, we also told our people to train your replacement. We knew in our company that people were going to get trained, and then eventually they were probably going to leave for a higher paying company because we weren't a huge company. So we knew that they were going to leave, and we wanted the next person to be able to step right in. So that process, that concept is very common in the business world, less so in the church world. But we see the Bible in the example of Moses and his father-in-law Jethro that's exactly what God's word commands us, that we are to teach and train each other, our replacements for any ministry, anything in which we involved in the church, so more people know, so if something happens, the ministry can continue on. Something to think about. Examine yourself where you stand on that. Are you learning something from somebody else in a ministry? Are you involved in a ministry at all? And if you are in charge of a ministry, are you training up your replacements? Don't take my word for it. Read Exodus chapter 18, verses 17 to 23. God's word tells you just doing it yourself is not a good thing. So look forward to seeing everyone at church. Continue to take care and see you soon.